Moin aus dem Wunderland.
Moin from the Wunderland. I'm Steffen and I'm currently building digital flags for the racetrack in Monaco. Digital flags are these small poles here. The goal is that they should look exactly like they do on the real racetrack. On the real racetrack, there are screens that support the marshals and show the signals of the flags, so the pilots are able to perceive the signals more quickly. We are trying to replicate the same thing here in small, so we can represent the colors exactly like on the real track. Now I will show you how I did it.
Rennstrecke auch darstellen können. Und wie ich das Ganze mache, zeige ich euch jetzt. Wie sind wir an die ganze Sache rangegangen?
How did we approach it? The problem is that the racetrack in Monaco is only built temporarily. So you can't fly over and look. Also, there are only few pictures of what it looks like in real life. Of course, there are requirements by the FIA. We tried to get some guidance by that. Also, we researched what that looks like on the racetrack in Monaco.
Das heißt, wir haben unter anderem
Among other things, we looked at the cockpit views of race laps to find out when the flags are switched on and what colors they have. Where are the flags positioned especially?
Wo stehen die Flaggen insbesondere? Das war gar nicht so einfach.
This was not so easy, because we had to try to find laps that were recorded accurately, that would be available on the internet, for example, and where the flags had to be recognizable.
Die Flaggen natürlich auch zu erkennen sind. Als weiteres haben wir uns noch einem kleinen Trick bedient.
We also used another trick. One of our colleagues has the latest Formula One game on PlayStation. He brought it with him, and we were able to drive the circuit in Monaco very slowly. This allowed us to find the locations and appearance of the digital flags. Since the current racing game is very detailed, it's so accurate that the positions in the game match what we've seen in the videos of the real track. This way we could check if the positions were exactly the same in real life as in the game. Or rather, if we found the right positions.
Vergleichen zu können, sind die Positionen in echt genauso wie im Spiel, beziehungsweise haben wir die richtigen Positionen gefunden. Das war eigentlich ein dummer Zufall, wenn man so will. Ich bin nach Hamburg.
Actually, it was a coincidence. I originally moved to Hamburg to study. During the orientation week before my studies, I met a fellow student who comes from Hamburg. During the first week of lecture, she was bored during the lecture. She already knew that I'm a tinkerer by then. She sent me a job listing by Miniatur Wunderland during the lecture, stating that they're looking for full-time mechatronic technicians. I was just as bored in this lecture, so I wrote a short mail for this job listing, told what I've done so far and asked for a part-time job, since I still wanted to study. 2 hours later, my department manager at the time called me back. He said to me, "Steffen, all of that sounds pretty good. It was a bit meager, but don't you want to come over and we'll talk in more detail?" I asked when we were going to talk and asked if he had time the following day. So on the next day I was in Wunderland for the interview.
Da war ich am nächsten Tag im Wunderland zum Vorstellungsgespräch. Hab doch überhaupt gar nicht drüber nachgedacht.
I didn't think too much about it and didn't even bring an application with me. I then spent 2 hours talking to my department head at the time about all sorts of things. He said all of that sounded good and asked if I had time to do a trial day in the coming week. A week later I was there for a trial. He came back to me and said, "It's obvious that I learned this stuff and was good at it, and if I would like to start working here." I said, "Yes, let's do it," and that's how I got here.
So bin ich dann hier gelandet. Wie bei jeder andere Lampe auch, starten wir eigentlich
As with any other lamp, we start with a brass construction. For this, I cut and bent small brass tubes. The base is a bit more massive here. This is due to the fact that the digital flags on our layout are located directly on the racetrack PCBs. We can't drill through the boards, so they had to be a little wider, since they must be able to stand on their own. Then we can run the cables through the layout behind the PCBs. That's also why we took a slightly thicker brass block that I milled. These are then soldered together and painted later.
Den ich gefräst habe. Das Ganze wird dann zusammengelötet, verlötet und später auch lackiert. Im nächsten Arbeitsschritt
For the next step, we modeled small frames in CAD. We printed these here, in-house, also painted. This is basically our frame, or screen. The various LEDs are inserted into the screen along the perimeter. Green, red, blue and yellow. When the LEDs are inserted, an acrylic glass body goes in here. On the one hand, this provides for the screen appearance. On the other hand, it is special acrylic glass which we used for the first time. It has a certain diffusion effect. If we were to install normal, clear acrylic, the light from the LED would not spread as nicely. You would only see a point of light. The diffusion effect on this acrylic glass ensures that the light is refracted and distributed over the entire acrylic.
Man würde nur einen Lichtpunkt sehen. Und die diffuse Wirkung von diesem Acrylblock sorgt quasi dafür, dass das Licht gebrochen wird und sich so schön über die gesamte Fläche des Acrylblocks verteilt. Wie eben erwähnt,
As I mentioned, we can't feed the wires through the track PCBs. Instead, we drew and 3D printed these little power distribution boxes, so we would be able to build a connector that is spaced a bit apart from the actual position. So if a light breaks, we can replace it and service it.
Falls natürlich mal so eine Lampe kaputt geht, dass wir sie auch austauschen und warten können. Gute Frage. Also ich würde deine Frage so ein
I would
bisschen
sidestep your question a bit and say that I would start at the airport. I'd like to think that it would be really cool to fly with our planes, especially with the Bumblebee and the Millennium Falcon. That has always been a small dream of mine. I would then drive over to Knuffingen via the roads. I'd spend half the day driving the cars around, maybe play firefighter for a bit. If I didn't want to do that anymore, I'd get on a train and go across the exhibition. Maybe get out somewhere in Scandinavia and take a boat ride. I think that would be really cool.
Vielleicht irgendwo in Skandinavien noch mal aussteigen und eine Runde Boot fahren. Ich glaube, das fände ich ziemlich cool, muss ich sagen. So, davon habe ich jetzt 19 Stück gebaut.
So I have now built 19 of them. These are the 19 we need on the layout. It took me about 3 weeks to do it. In order to have a few more as spare parts, and because we don't know how durable they are, I will build about 10 more as replacements. Now we're going to do a placement rehearsal and see how they look on the layout.
Und wie diese jetzt allerdings auf der Anlage aussehen, da machen wir jetzt eine kleine Stellprobe und schauen uns das Ganze mal an. Den einen lustigsten oder skurrilsten Moment.
I don't even remember the one funniest or most bizarre moment. The problem is, there are so many funny or bizarre things that happen to us all the time. Not without reason, we say to ourselves that we are in Wunderland and sometimes wonder why things work or how they work. Therefore, I can't commit to one moment at all.
Einen so wirklich festlegen. Aber im Gegensatz dazu habe ich so einen wirklich.
But I have a moment that has touched me very much in the last few years. That was the Rio opening.
Das war zur Rio-Eröffnung. Wir hatten am Abend, bevor die Rio
The night before the official opening of Rio, the Samba dance group was there, who danced at the opening. The night before, one of the dancers, an older woman, stood next to me that accompanied the group. She looked at Rio and started crying. She told me that her brother lives over here, and her sister would come from over there, and that all of this was replicated one-to-one, and she was moved to it by tears. I stood next to it and thought to myself, yeah, we really achieved something here.
Und dass es wirklich 1:1 dargestellt ist und das hat sie wirklich zu Tränen gerührt und da stand ich daneben und habe gedacht so, ja, da haben wir was erreicht. Das ist
That really touched me, I have to say.
So, das sah ja schon mal sehr gut aus.
That looked really good. We couldn't see the flags light up yet, since this was only to figure out the positioning first and to see where we can drill the holes through the layout. But I'm sure it will look really good in the end, especially once everything is running and the flags and cars are interacting with each other. You'll see that in the future when everything is up and running. Take care until then and have a nice day.
Bis dahin, macht es gut und einen schönen Tag euch noch.